It might not look like it on the forefront, but this is a very favorite topic of mine, and Vince Quinn is just tantalizing my football testicles. Sure, we'll go with that. And
Sure, yeah, well, I guess we'll go with that. Fine.
But college football has completely realigned itself in a blink of an eye, and Vince Quinn is here to tell me and you exactly why that matters for the future of the NFL and all of that. And I think it's very interesting how this happened so quickly, especially after the NIL announcements were made. We'll get into all that in a second, too. But why does this matter for us Eagles fans here, Vince Quinn?
Changes everything. It changes everything that matters about the whole existence of the ecosystem, right? Like, this is how, whenever an ecosystem, like, what happens sometimes is, like, in Philly, the spotted lanternfly. Remember how big a deal that was?
Oh, my God.
When they first came over.
Beating them left and right off my trees.
Oh, yeah, it was fun. Stomping the bugs
fun?
was fun.
Was not fun.
It was not fun.
It was
You ever
horrible.
stomp a good bug? Oh man! So I mean, I don't just like go around stomping bugs. If they're
Right.
outside, generally I let bugs be bugs. That's where bugs live.
PETA can write the
But-
snail mail to 105 3rd Street, Media PA 19063.
No, I take
so,
it.
Thank you.
Any bug that's where it belongs outside is fine. If it comes in the house, it's my territory and it's game over. So that's how I play it. There's rules, but. You could take out the lanternfly because it was disrupting the ecosystem. It is a dangerous thing. It is a predator, and now what are the ripple effects of that? We'll see. Like, that is still a problem here. But when you're thinking about that, everything flows through the draft. I mean, it is the foundation of NFL football. What is the biggest thing in the NFL? It's getting these young guys, young quarterbacks, high-profile contracts that cost you nothing. And that's how you ride. That's how you win Super Bowls. All the ecosystem of all these different teams and what you know about them is going to change. Because when you're getting like a USC and a UCLA and they're going to the Big Ten.
First of all, fuck yes. Chip Kelly is in my life again on Saturdays. Anyway, not that he ever went away. But
Well, yeah, no, he's always at a spot in your heart.
They'll still play 10:30.
Yeah,
You'll be asleep by then.
Yeah, Michigan State versus UCLA, 10:30.
Yeah, you'll wake up on the
Jesus.
couch and be like, "Oh, it's the fourth quarter," and then you'll fall asleep again. But yeah, like when that's gonna happen, right? What happens right now? We talked about this because of like Nelson Aguilar, for example. Oh, don't
yes.
draft Pac-12 wide receivers. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the same anymore.
Well, counterpoint, don't draft Big Ten wide receivers unless they go to Ohio State. There you go. Still the same. So just from media.
Yeah. No. So, but that stuff is going to change. So basically, all the stuff that you've had built up in your head of these stereotypes of like, oh, this guy went to that school, this is what they do. This guy goes to that school, that's what they do. It's going to change because all of these ecosystems are different now within college, even because the Big Ten does have an identity. It's more of a gritty style of game. Pac-12's a little more open and moving around. You're going to have the SEC.
Hold on.
It's all different.
I want to stop Vince for 1 second.
Sure.
The Big Ten is physical and in the arc ages because it can't recruit athletes. That's why it has to stay in that system.
Well, would you figure the recruiting gets better?
No.
You don't think it gets any better with USC and UCLA? It's gonna. Why would they make the move if it's not going to get better?
Because they know that they're outgunned and they have to go with somebody. And the Big Ten is the closest thing to it because they actually get the playoff chances. They get the stupid Michigan tickets to, maybe they'll beat Alabama, which is so. Would I bet that UCLA could kick the ever-living shit out of most of the Big Ten? Yes, I do. And do I think that they are ready for Chip Kelly? And do you think that when Chip is probably in on this decision, he's been in the discussions, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So if you're saying, hey, Chip, who could you absolutely destroy? Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, probably Michigan, because I used to kick the shit out of Jim all the time, and now I'm going to go embarrass him. And that's the only great thing about this, folks. By the way, Chip Kelly versus Jim Harbaugh, finally, first time, and he took his job, which is so fucking. Do you realize what's happening in the Big Ten?
That's not a headline.
That is
Nobody else cares about that.
I know. But yeah, I feel as though it's not going to help recruiting at all. It's only going to boost the ones that are already set in doing so. Like UCLA, that's a proper program. You're going to get the better kids that might think about going to Iowa or to Illinois, and maybe there are 3 or 4 or 5 stars that want to hang around there. Not anymore when Chip Kelly's beating Ohio State and beating Michigan and doing all those things. It's going to help UCLA. It's not going to help anybody else recruit, I don't think.
Yeah,
Me personally.
Well, I think it is generally. And what's going to happen is, too, I mean, this is going to be a multi-year process, right? Like, just to get teams over, I mean, decade-long process, potentially. Because to get a team and move it over, a school to move it over, it takes years. I mean, what do? You schedule it 3-4 years out, right? So when you're making all these kinds of moves, what's going to happen next is they're going to refine it. Because NIL is going to drive everything. It's going to be, okay, how can we generate the most money? Which schools are the best at doing that? How can we convert that into the biggest TV deals? And how can we all, as a league, essentially make all of our money the most together? So,
and just real quick, if you're unfamiliar at all with what we're saying with NIL, it now means you can make money as a college player with endorsements, with the approval of the school along with. So that's why it's kind of a big racket, and everybody's like, all right, well, what the fuck is this and all that stuff.
Yeah, so the
just wanted
schools
to
are
clarify.
the schools are in on all of this, and they're brokering deals now for their student athletes. And we can talk about Miami in a minute, because Taylor brought up something before the show about Miami that's a really big deal, and we can get to that. But the whole idea being that these schools, it's going to be fundraising is going to be the first thing that you got. If you can raise money, you can recruit better athletes. So thinking about these guys that once in a while come out of a fucking nowhere school, right? That's not going to happen as much anymore. They might have gotten, like, if you've got these certain opportunities where you can just buy the best player, even if because a lot of times you might just play there because it's your hometown.
Right.
So you're a good player. You could have gone to a better school. You decided to stay home. You want to be with your family, whatever. If you're going to get paid and you can support your family, you're going to go. Like, a lot of these guys are going to go because money just drives everything. So it's going to be more condensed in terms of a lot of the top talent, I think, is going to be more into 2 or 3 conferences for now. That could eventually push into 1 if the money's coming in strong enough. You're just going to buy the best guys. So, like, I think college football is sort of flattening out in a real way.
There's only one way. There's only one way I think it can go.
Mm-hmm.
And just to go way back to, I think, one of our first few episodes, and we might have brought it up during one of the times during the offseason. This is why the XFL is planning to do what they're doing and why they waited an extra year, in my opinion, for the pandemic to settle itself so they could get a little more money. They wanted to settle where the NCAA was going to fall on the NIL and where this is at. And now that college football has made it exactly what Vince Quinn is saying, this superpower, which I do agree is going to condense some people, and it will go to those proper programs, but I don't think enough where it's going to completely diminish the draft. But it'll completely diminish the draft enough if you have choices now, because there's plenty of other choices outside of college football, in my opinion, now that you can go play, as long as the USFL hangs for the next 2 or 3 years, which I believe they see the opportunity there, because the USFL can shift itself into the not-so-college all-stars league, where you might need a second or third chance to develop into your 22, 3, 4 age. Then you bump yourself to the XFL, and then you land yourself to the NFL. And what do we call that? Minor league system, which is finally shaping itself and flattening itself out. Vince Quinn, I've tried to think otherwise of where this can go, and that is the only way this train is going in my mind. It might not be the USFL in the end. It might not be the XFL in the end. But I'm pretty damn sure they want to link all this stuff together, and they know too. And still looking at people like Deion Sanders at Jacksonville State, who just got there, and the landscape of, we just went through this a couple of weeks ago, the landscape of sports broadcasting has changed dramatically. Like, you don't have to rely on ESPN. You don't have to rely on all these different places. So to me, that's where I think it's going. A flattened out, maybe this is their relegation system, and this is how you start to get Dan Snyder's out of the league. So it's still safe. Like, the NFL is going to have to bend to somebody, and they're like, all right, fuck it, let's just do it before, so the league doesn't fold. And that's what I kind of think is happening here.
They're going to embrace somebody for spring football at some point. I think that's where it goes. And honestly, if I was a conference and trying to make a power move, because let's say, all right, I am the Pac-12, I'm losing all these people, I'm fucked. Maybe I start playing in the spring. Why not? I'm the only college football game in town. What do you have to lose at that point? Like,
I
I mean,
mean-
anything's possible. It really is. I would even
I didn't
consider
even think of that. That's really interesting.
if I was somebody as well, if I was with the USFL or the XFL and say the SEC who's building up everything, maybe I go to them and go, hey, how about our All-Stars play your All-Stars?
Absolutely.
And there's money on the line and they get paid. Like that kind of who knows? I mean, it's a wide open world in that way. But I want to talk about the draft for a second. 'Cause
Yeah, please.
Here's the problem with the draft for now, and this will be in the next couple of years here, and then here's where it's going to be long term. But short term, the problem is the guys that would typically come out as a sophomore, junior, senior, or sophomore, junior, I should say, they're probably going to stay because they are making money right now. So you might have a year or two where these guys, hey, you're a third round pick, but you can make $1 million playing at Miami. I'm going to fucking stay at Miami. I just am. So
Not a ton of guys making $1 million at Miami.
yeah. I would.
Like,
Not-
It'll
yeah.
get there. It'll get there.
How
but
many at Alabama you think in 3 years?
I mean, okay, the exception to the rule.
Well, Alabama, I mean, most of the schools in the SEC in 5 years. No?
In 5 years, yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, maybe.
So maybe $1 million right now, even if it was a couple $100,000. Like, what is the rookie minimum? I mean, the rookie minimum is probably like $80K. I don't think it's a lot. If I can make $150,000,
it's more than that.
and
Even as a practice squad player, I think that's your weekly.
no, not $80K.
For gotcha. For the my bad. I'm just
They
I
don't
was
make
thinking NFL salaries, my bad.
120. It's not a lot. I think
Yeah.
the veteran minimum's like 800. Either way, there's going to be guys that are going to make more money staying in college potentially rather than being, say, especially a third round pick, where it's like, oh, you're pretty good. You put up a lot of good numbers in college. People are buying your jersey. They
Man.
like you. You can sell
I
autographs
disagree.
and all that.
I disagree.
You could have a great ecosystem as a college
if
athlete.
you're but if you're like $200,000 off, right? Like, and you're a third round pick versus going back into the pool and like, I'll be a first round pick next year. Rarely has that ever happened anyway. And I don't care what position it is. Quarterbacks that go back, it's a death sentence. Same thing. Like, I don't think you're going to convince too many people, hey, here's your dream. You want to turn it down for $200,000? I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't think that's going to be a much of a major deal.